Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. Okay, let's just get right into it. Today, we're unpacking one of the absolute most fascinating and frankly unprecedented social movements in recent history. We're talking about the 2026 NEET protests in India. We're going to explore this striking, almost unbelievable contrast between hyper-modern, sarcastic internet culture and a very serious, deeply rooted systemic crisis.
I am going to get beaten by Delhi police. That exact sentence was casually posted online as a caption by a young protester sharing an outfit check, a standard fit check video on Instagram, right before she headed out to demonstrate. At the time, it felt like just another self-deprecating Gen Z joke on the internet. But fast forward just a few hours later, and this young woman, along with thousands of others, was met with actual police batons and tear gas.
It's a pretty jarring reality check, isn't it? Which brings us to the central and admittedly kinda absurd question of this explainer. How exactly did a joke about cockroaches escalate into the most massive, highly organized youth revolt India has seen in years? Well, to understand how a generation literally memed their way to the steps of parliament, we have to start at the very bizarre beginning.
Section 1. Birth of the Cockroach Party.
Now, what's so wild about this movement is the sheer level of self-awareness. The Cockroach Janta Party, or CJP, was born as a direct, mocking response to a comment made by India's Chief Justice. He actually stirred up a lot of controversy by comparing unemployed youth and social media activists to cockroaches and parasites. But instead of just getting angry about it, the youth totally adopted the label. They set up a satirical political party where the eligibility criteria literally demands that you are unemployed, lazy, chronically online, and a professional ranter.
And their protest placards were essentially physical memes. You had signs saying things like, "We asked for Make in India, you gave us Leak in India." It's this brilliant deadpan jab at the Prime Minister's flagship manufacturing campaign, completely repurposed to highlight the repeated leaks of national exam papers. The protesters used this razor-sharp humor not just as a fun garnish, but as the actual delivery mechanism to express their utter exhaustion with the whole system.
And here's another one that perfectly illustrates the Gen Z approach to dissent. Hurry up and resign, I have to leave for Panville tomorrow morning. They took a famous, universally recognized Bollywood movie dialogue and flipped it into a direct demand for the education minister's resignation. By using pop culture and meme formats, these young protesters made their anger incredibly shareable. It wasn't just a physical protest in the streets, it was an algorithm-dominating internet event that basically became impossible for the country to scroll past.
Section 2. The Broken Exam System.
29.1%. That is the staggering unemployment rate among graduates in India right now. To put that massive number into perspective, that rate is 9 times higher than for folks who never even attended school. You have the largest Gen Z population in the entire world fighting for a highly limited pool of jobs, where a simple exam can completely determine their entire economic future.
And this brings us to the incredibly heavy core issue that's mutually reported across all our sources. In May 2026, the NEET UG Medical Entrance Exam, an exam that over 2 million aspiring doctors rely on, was severely compromised. A file containing test questions was circulating on messaging apps way before the exam even started. Students spent years, not to mention their parents' entire life savings, preparing for a test that was essentially rigged from the start. Tragically, this devastating realization led to over a dozen documented student suicides.
And guys, this isn't just an isolated incident or some unverified internet rumor. Academic research published in the International Journal for Multidisciplinary Research explicitly confirms that paper leaks in national competitive exams are a well-documented systemic crisis in India. The study actually notes that these leaks cause profound mistrust, severe emotional distress, and they bring into question the very integrity of the higher education system itself. The structural exhaustion these students are complaining about, it is entirely validated by the data.
Section 3. The protesters' core demands.
So what did they actually want? The protesters laid out very clear, actionable demands. They called for the resignation of the education minister, 1 crore rupees in financial compensation for the families of the students who tragically took their own lives, the withdrawal of all police cases against peaceful demonstrators, and a full, independent judicial inquiry into the testing agency. Oh, and in true Gen Z fashion, to communicate their demand that the government needs to plug the leaks, they actually gathered signatures on actual baby diapers and physically mailed them to the ministry. You literally cannot make this up.
Section 4. Activists leading the charge.
First up, we have Abhijit Deepki. He's a 30-year-old public relations graduate who essentially acted as the spark for all of this.
Right after the Chief Justice made that cockroach comment, Dipkey leaned into his PR background and used AI tools like Claude and ChatGPT to build the Cockroach Janta Party's entire manifesto and visual identity online. And he did it in just 24 hours. He basically channeled a whole generation's aimless frustration into a highly organized, super effective satirical front.
But then, bridging the gap between internet satire and severe physical resistance is Sonam Wangchuk. He's a prominent environmentalist and education reformer who joined the youth and completely amplified their cause by staging a grueling 21-day hunger strike in New Delhi. His involvement brought immense gravity to the movement. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was far more than just a fleeting internet joke.
Section 5. The government's crackdown.
So let's track the chronological flow of events here. For a whole month, the government just stonewalled. They refused to send anyone to open a dialogue with the students. Then, on day 21 of his fast, plainclothes police forcibly removed a very weakened Sonam Wangchuk and put him into an ambulance. That move sparked the massive Chalo Sansad, or March to Parliament, on July 20th. Despite the youth being hyper-vigilant about remaining peaceful, authorities deployed heavy barricades, tear gas, and batons. Over 100 people were left injured. Finally, after all that, on July 23rd, the Prime Minister responded, promising fast-track courts to punish those involved in the paper leaks.
But right before that concession happened, the rhetorical battle was incredibly intense. The education minister was quoted calling the protesters a B team of terrorists who were trying to divide the country. But what's truly fascinating is how the students handled it. Instead of getting super defensive against these really severe allegations, they simply took footage of the minister, set it to the lyrics of Taylor Swift's song Antihero, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, and just let it go completely viral on TikTok and Instagram.
Section 6. A new protest era.
Let's just compare the two playbooks for a second. The traditional establishment response usually involves stonewalling, using police force, and labeling dissenters with heavily loaded terms like anti-nationals or terrorists. But the Gen Z playbook? It completely short-circuited that old strategy. They maintained absolute peacefulness so the media couldn't possibly frame them as a violent mob while totally weaponizing self-deprecating satire. Because this crowd was made up of mainstream, aspirational kids from all over, demanding basic exam integrity, the old tactic of demonizing them simply didn't stick. They made their dissent unscrollable, and in doing so, they completely shattered the usual climate of fear.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought. Can a generation raised on memes successfully meme a government into systemic reform? I mean, they've already forced the issue right up to the steps of Parliament and demanded accountability at the highest possible levels. Whether the entire system fundamentally changes, well, that remains to be seen. But one thing is absolutely clear for sure. The rules of democratic protest have been entirely rewritten. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.